I rise to support new clause 36, which will give powers to Scotland over whether and when we hold a referendum. If it is right that there is mutual respect, we are told that there is, then the Scottish Parliament, elected by the Scottish people, has the right to determine its own destiny. The Secretary of State and no doubt other members will be familiar, will be familiar with the words of Lord Cooper from 1953 when he stated that the principle of unlimited sovereignty of Parliament is a distinctly English principle which has no counterpart in Scottish constitutional law. In other words, Mr. Speaker, it is the people of Scotland who are sovereign. We come to this House with a mandate from the people of Scotland, and that ought to be respected. My message to the government benches opposite is that you drove through English votes for English laws. I happily give way.
I thank the honourable gentleman. He stands in front of another distinguished right honourable member of this House. Does he agree with the right honourable member for Gordon that last year's referendum was a once-in-a-generation affair? Yes or no?
I always agree with my right honourable friend for Gordon, but the point is, it is the Scottish people that are ahead of this Parliament, and what we have to reflect upon is what is happening in this bill. We were promised Devo to the max, as close to federalism as we could get. Home rule in the spirit of Keir Hardie. It is this House and the government benches that are letting down the people of Scotland, and the people of Scotland will reflect upon that. I'll happily give way.
I always enjoy my honourable friends in this chamber making his passionate speeches. I wonder, for the sake of clarity, if you could read the second line from what the former Prime Minister said with regards to federalism.
Well, I think the point is that the Scottish people were promised by Gordon Brown that we're going to get powers for a purpose, that we were going to have a powerhouse parliament, and that's what's not been delivered tonight, because I can see the Secretary of State saying we are. But let's look at the reality of the situation. 70% of powers over taxation are going to be held here at Westminster. 85% of powers over welfare are going to be held here at Westminster. Madam Deputy Speaker, I don't know what that is, but it's certainly not a powerhouse parliament. And in the light of the challenges that we face with the tax credit cuts that we'll debate in the second part tonight, we need to make sure that the Scottish Parliament has the powers to protect the people of Scotland. And we'll be saying to the Labour Party, come with us. Show that resolve to make sure that we can protect the people that we need to in the country of Scotland.
If the honourable gentleman is truly passionate about protecting the people of Scotland, he will no doubt get to his feet and tell this chamber and the people of Scotland that he will restore any losses to tax credits for the Scottish people, as committed to by the Scottish Labour Party.
The Scottish National Party has shown in power in Scotland over the last few years that we've sought to mitigate the cuts that have come from Westminster. £100 million which has been invested to the Scottish people to offset the impacts of the bedroom tax. We will fight to defend the interests of the Scottish people, as we always have done. I happily give way.
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for giving way, and I'd like to remind the House that, unlike the Labour Party in the benches just next to us here, we are not prepared to give up the fight on tax credits, which we will take to the very end. While it's already been rejected by the Lords, the Scottish Parliament is not a mitigating chamber, it should be a legislative chamber, and we will fight to ensure that tax credits are not brought upon the vulnerable of this country.
I'm grateful to the honourable lady, but also it's about the ethos and about the kind of society that we are and what we will strive to do. Because in Scotland we believe not in welfare, we believe in social security, we believe in offering protection to people, but we also believe in the principle that society is as strong as its weakest link. A very different concept from what we have in this Parliament, with the cuts that are coming through and the cuts that we know that are going to come in the autumn statement as well. Now I'm going to make some progress, if you don't mind. So I say to this House, will you respect the sovereignty of the Scottish people who sent us here to this House? Are you going to ignore the express wishes of the Scottish people? I would say to ordinary members opposite, you have been rejected wholesale at the ballot box in Scotland. Think very carefully before exercising a veto, which to all intents and purposes will be an English veto against Scotland. Perhaps in this regard, the question we should put to the Secretary of State, is he Scotland's man in the Cabinet? Or is he the Cabinet's man in Scotland? The Secretary of State should do the honourable thing, accept our amendments and stand up for the people of Scotland. What is it to be? And what about the Labour Party? A party, Madam Deputy Speaker, that once dominated the political landscape of Scotland. Maybe not quite yet extinct like the dodo, more like a beached whale. Show us that you want to protect Scotland. If you want to make a difference for Scotland, support our amendments tonight, or will you be siding with your colleagues in Better Together? I'm going to make some progress. Labour need to start learning lessons that Scotland rejected them for a reason. You better start to get on side with us and the people of Scotland. Tonight is the chance for the House that Scotland expects, that we expect powers to be delivered, that empowers the Scottish Parliament and puts Scotland's destiny in Scotland's hands. Not by voting for a bill that leaves us with a hand tied behind our backs, while a Tory government does its worst to the poor and disadvantaged in our society, but on this amendment and on others, allows us to deliver on the interests of our people. We need a Parliament that will allow us to stand up for the people of Scotland and recognise that the people are sovereign. Let me, Madam Deputy Speaker, finish by quoting Charles Stewart Parnell. No man has the right to fix the boundary to a march to a nation. No man has the right to say to his country, thus far shalt thou go and no further. It is in this context that we need powers to determine in Scotland when and if we want to have a referendum. It is in this context that the House should listen to the elected members of the people of Scotland.